So to summarize, this, in fact, is the first half of the gospel. On display for the whole world, the bad news. First, God is holy, and he will not allow any sin, any imperfection to stand before him. His just wrath burns against sin. And second, every man, woman, and yes, child is inherently sinful and worthy of his infinite wrath and condemnation, as we see through this special intrusion picture of wrath against the Amalekites. God is holy, and we are sinful, and blessedness is only in the Lord. This is the first part of the gospel. Yet be encouraged. There is another intrusion of God's wrath in time, and this is the second half of the gospel, the good news. We must remember that God does not hate the Amalekites per se. God hates the Amalekites because they hate him and sin against him. That is, God does not hate people or people groups. God hates sin. If there was no sin in the Amalekites, a holy God would not hate them. God hates sin, and therein lies our hope, our chance. If the sin can be taken away, then there would be no need for the payment of wrath that we see against the Amalekites here in 1 Samuel 15. The problem is this, however. Now that there is sin, there must be payment. Now that there's sin, there must be payment. There must be wrath. A holy God cannot let sin go unpunished. God does not simply write off our sin as if it were nothing. It is not nothing. He must punish it. He must deal with sin rather than let it run free. Sin must be eradicated. And this is a good thing for us. Once it is eradicated, it can never come back. But how can this be done? Is salvation possible? Yes, for we see the cross of Christ as the next intrusion. In the destruction of the Amalekites, we see the cross of Christ. This is the good news. There's not only one intrusion of God's wrath in history. We see one much more important in Matthew 27, when Jesus calls out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" God's wrath was upon a perfect man because the imperfections, the sins of us Amalekites were upon him on the cross. But were this all, we still would have no hope. That is, God could have had wrath on Christ, but was it a devotion to destruction, as is the case here? That is, was it a total destruction of that sin? This is what Saul did not do. He only dispensed some wrath, not the full wrath of God. And God's wrath continued even after him. God's wrath was not only intruding upon the cross. Here's the good news. God's wrath for those who have faith was exhausted upon the cross. Holy war was brought against Christ. He was devoted to destruction. Holy war only ends when all sin is gone. So his holy war has stopped for you and I in Christ Jesus.